The air inside St. Andrew's Chapel felt too still, too holy for what I'd done. I sat in the second row, my hands cold in my lap, watching my mother, Margaret Carter, glide down the aisle in a white lace gown that wasn't meant for her. The crowd rose. I didn't. My heart pounded so loud it drowned out the organ. She looked radiant, younger even, her arm looped through Elliot's, my fiancé. My mother was marrying the man I loved, and everyone was smiling like this was some fairy tale. I could taste iron in my mouth. I smiled back. The kind of smile that hides blood and fire. They thought I'd accepted it. Her explanation, his excuses, their love. But they didn't know what I had done last night. What I buried. As the priest began to speak, Margaret's eyes met mine for half a second. She smiled, calm, satisfied. My throat tightened. I wanted to scream, to tear off the veil and expose everything. Instead, I just whispered, "You look beautiful, Mom." And I smiled, because she had no idea what was coming. It was past midnight when I parked outside the cottage on Willow Creek Road. The rain had softened into mist, the kind that blurs headlights and sins. Elliot's car was there, and my mother's pearl scarf hung from his rearview mirror. I didn't cry anymore. I'd done enough of that. I let myself in through the back door, quiet as a thought. Their laughter floated from upstairs. My chest burned. Not with sadness now, but clarity. On the kitchen table lay their marriage license, unsigned but ready. I picked it up, ran my finger over the names, Margaret Carter and Elliot Graves. My hands trembled. I opened my bag and took out the envelope I'd spent weeks preparing. Copies of his financial fraud documents, her forged inheritance papers. I placed the envelope under his name on the license, then deleted every trace from my laptop. By morning, the police would find everything, but not the trail leading back to me. When I left that night, the house looked peaceful, candlelight flickering through the curtains. No one would know what I'd set in motion. The priest's voice faded behind the sound of my pulse. "If anyone objects," he began, the line every wedding guest holds their breath for. I could have spoken then. I wanted to. My fingers curled around the edge of the pew, ready to rise. But I didn't. Margaret's hand rested gently on Elliot's. Her nails were painted the same shade she used when she used to tuck me in as a child. That same hand had slapped me when I found out about them. "Love doesn't belong to anyone, Beth," she'd said. I watched as they exchanged vows, words that once belonged to me. And yet, something strange happened. My anger began to settle, almost softening. Maybe because I knew their perfect little union was already poisoned. The ceremony ended in applause. Margaret leaned in, kissed him, and for a moment I saw the girl she once was. Beautiful, broken, desperate to feel wanted. When she caught my eye again, her smile faltered. Maybe she saw the cold peace in mine. The ballroom lights flickered gold and white. Champagne flowed. Laughter echoed. Margaret twirled in Elliot's arms, and for a moment it looked like a scene from a magazine. But beneath it, tension buzzed. Small things people didn't notice. 2 men in plain suits by the entrance. A woman at the bar, checking her phone too often. I stood near the dessert table, pretending to admire the cake. Margaret came over, flushed from dancing. "You could have at least worn colour, Beth," she teased. "I'm in mourning," I said softly. She laughed, not realizing I wasn't joking. A sharp noise broke through the music, the sound of a door slamming open. Everyone turned. The 2 men from the entrance walked straight to Elliot. Their badges flashed. "Mr. Graves, we need to speak with you," one said. Elliot froze. Margaret blinked in confusion. I just sipped my drink, feeling the room tilt as whispers spread. Elliot looked at me once, a flicker of recognition or fear. I couldn't tell. They led Elliot away in handcuffs before the cake was even cut. The crowd scattered like startled birds, phones flashing, whispers hissing. Margaret chased after them, her heels slipping on the marble floor. "There's been a mistake," she cried, grabbing one of the officers. "Ma'am, please step aside," he said. But her voice kept rising, desperate, cracking. I stood by the table, staring at the half-filled champagne glasses. My hands were steady. For the first time in months, I felt still inside. Then I heard my name. "Beth?" She was crying now, mascara bleeding down her face. "Did you know about this?" "Tell me you didn't." I looked at her, the woman who gave me life and took it away. "You made your choices, Mom," I whispered. Her eyes widened, something dawning behind them. A fear that maybe I did know. Before she could speak again, a reporter's camera flashed. The picture would make tomorrow's headlines. And I just kept smiling. By morning, the story was everywhere. Real estate heir arrested at wedding ceremony. The news didn't mention my mother's name yet, but her face was in every photograph beside his. She locked herself in her room for 2 days. The curtain stayed drawn, the phone ringing endlessly. I could hear her pacing, muttering Elliot's name between sobs. I made tea and left it by her door like I used to when I was 12. The smell of cold lavender drifted out when she finally opened it. Her eyes were swollen. "They're saying I knew," she whispered. "Did you?" I asked. Her silence answered. She sat on the edge of her bed, shaking. "They'll ruin me, Beth. The papers, the church, everyone." I cut her off. "You ruined yourself." My voice was calm, even. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me anymore. Outside, the first reporters had already arrived. I closed the blinds and turned on the kettle again. The steam fogged the window, hiding our reflections. The knock came just after noon. I opened the door to find a man in a grey coat holding a badge. "Beth Ann Carter?" he asked. "Yes." "Detective Rowan, I need to ask a few questions about Elliot Graves." Margaret appeared behind me, her robe cinched tight. "She doesn't know anything." He nodded politely. "Then you won't mind if I ask?" We sat in the living room. Rowan's tone was careful, probing. "Someone sent documents to the authorities. Bank transfers, hidden accounts, real estate fraud. The sender used a public library computer. Any idea who'd want to expose him?" I kept my face still. "Maybe one of his investors." He studied me for a long moment. "You were engaged to him once, weren't you?" My stomach tightened. "Yes." Once he closed his notebook. "If you remember anything, call me." When he left, Margaret exhaled sharply. "You didn't, did you?" I looked at her, voice soft. "Would it matter if I did?" She turned away, gripping the curtain until the fabric tore. Margaret disappeared that evening without a word. I found her hours later at Nora Kemp's diner on Main Street. Through the window I saw them, 2 women who once gossiped over coffee, now sitting stiff, hands clenched. When I entered, Nora looked guilty. "Beth." "Hey." Margaret's voice cut sharp. "She was the one who told you, wasn't she?" About Elliot, Nora's eyes darted to me. "I didn't mean to." I thought she already knew. I stepped closer. "What else did you tell her?" Nora hesitated, then whispered, "Your mother and Elliot were planning to sell your father's land behind your back." "The deed's already gone." My breath caught. That land was all I had left of him. Margaret slammed her hand on the table. "You had no right to tell her that." People turned to stare. I just walked out, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. My mother followed, voice trembling. "Beth, listen." "Don't," I said. "You've said enough." The Carter property sat on the edge of town, acres of wild grass and broken fences. My father used to call it the last honest place. I hadn't been there in years. When I reached the gate, a for sale sign leaned against the post. Elliot's company logo shone faintly at the corner. My chest ached. I walked through the tall weeds until I reached the old barn. Dust, silence, and the faint smell of engine oil lingered. On the workbench, I found a folder labeled Transfer Documents. The papers confirmed it. Margaret's signature beside Elliot's. Tears came without warning. I sat on the dirt floor, holding the papers to my chest. A car engine hummed behind me. I turned and saw Detective Rowan step out. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said. "Why not?" "Because when people lose everything, they make dangerous choices." I smiled weakly. I already made mine. Rowan's eyes scanned the field. "The investigators found another name tied to the fraud accounts," he said. "Margaret Carter." My throat went dry. "My mother?" He nodded. "If she helped move the money, she could face time." "Did she ever mention offshore accounts?" I shook my head, heart racing. "No. She barely mentioned Dad's death." He hesitated, then handed me a card. "I think she's hiding more than money." When he drove away, I looked at the papers again. My father's signature from years ago. A line of his handwriting I'd never noticed before. "Trust no one who calls your pain love." The wind lifted the edges of the page. I folded it carefully and tucked it inside my jacket. I didn't know if Rowan suspected me too, but one thing was clear. The truth was spreading faster than I could contain it. And Margaret. She was about to lose everything she'd betrayed me for. That night, the air inside the house felt heavy, like the walls were listening. Margaret sat by the fireplace, a half-empty glass of wine trembling in her hand. When I walked in, she didn't look up. "You talked to him, didn't you?" she said. "Detective Rowan?" "He came to me," I replied. She turned then, eyes sharp. "Don't play innocent, Beth. I know you're behind this." Her accusation didn't sting. I'd been waiting for it. "Behind what, Mom?" "The truth." Her voice cracked. "You think I wanted this life?" "I did what I had to do after your father died." I stepped closer. "You mean lying? Selling his land? Sleeping with my fiancé?" The glass shattered on the floor. "Don't you dare judge me," she hissed. "You wouldn't have survived a week in my place." For a second she looked small, just a woman trapped by her own hunger. Then her expression hardened again. "If I go down, Beth, I won't go alone." I stared at her, heart pounding. "That's the difference between us," I whispered. "I already learned to live alone." By sunrise, Margaret was gone, her closet emptied, her phone off. A single note sat on the kitchen counter. "Don't look for me." The silence in the house was unbearable. The police called by noon. They couldn't reach her either. I walked through every room, her perfume still hanging faintly in the air. It was like she'd evaporated. Rowan arrived later, his face unreadable. "Her car was found near the cliffs," he said. "No signs of struggle." My heart clenched. "You think she—" He shook his head. "Not yet. But she withdrew a large amount of cash before disappearing. If she's running, she won't get far." I stared out the window, watching the wind move through the trees. For a moment, I almost pitied her. Almost. That night, I dreamed of her standing on the edge of the cliffs, white dress whipping in the wind, looking back at me with that same calm smile from the wedding. Only this time, I wasn't smiling back. Rowan called me the next morning. "We found something," he said. At the precinct, he showed me a folder retrieved from Margaret's office. Inside were bank statements, but not hers. Mine. I stared at the pages. "These are fake," I said. "They're not," Rowan replied quietly. "The money trail leads to your name, Beth. Transfers, deposits, even the library computer logs. Someone used your credentials." The room tilted. "She framed me." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe she planned this all along, to make sure someone else took the fall." I gripped the table, breath shaking. "She set me up. She used me to destroy him, then pinned it back on me." Rowan studied me carefully. "Why would your mother hate you that much?" I looked down at the documents, at the familiar handwriting on the signature lines. "Because I remind her of the man she couldn't control." For the first time since this began, I felt truly afraid. It was past midnight when the sound came. Glass shattering in the kitchen. My body reacted before my mind caught up. I grabbed the old baseball bat by the door. Footsteps creaked on the tile. My pulse hammered. "Who's there?" A shadow moved through the hallway, then paused at the corner. The light flickered, and I saw the shape of a woman, hair disheveled, face pale. "Mom?" Margaret stepped into view. Her eyes were hollow, her voice trembling. "They're going to arrest you, Beth?" "They think you did it?" I froze. "You made them think that?" "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered. "Elliot was supposed to take the fall. But then you sent those files." My grip on the bat loosened. "You ruined us both." She reached for me. "Help me fix this." Something in me broke then. "You can't fix what you destroy." Her hand fell away. Tears rolled down her face, silent, heavy. When I blinked, she was gone again. Out the door, into the night. The police found her car at the bottom of Ravenshaw Cliff. It had hit the rocks, crushed by the tide. They didn't find her body. I stood behind the caution tape, wind cutting through my coat, watching the waves swallow the wreck. Rowan came up beside me. "We can't confirm she's dead," he said. "There's no body, no footprints." My throat was dry. "She's not dead," I whispered. "She's hiding." He looked at me carefully. "If she contacts you—" "She won't," I said. But that night when I got home, the answering machine blinked red. One new message. I pressed play. Her voice came through, faint but clear. "Beth, I'm sorry, but you'll understand one day. I did what I had to do. Don't come looking for me." Then silence. For the first time, I didn't feel anger or relief, just an emptiness that felt like falling. The envelope came 2 days after the message. Plain, cream-colored, no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with 3 words written in my father's handwriting. She knew everything. My stomach twisted. My father, John Carter, had died 10 years ago. Or at least, that's what I believed. I examined the paper. No fingerprints, no date, nothing else. Just his initials at the bottom. JCI called Rowan immediately. He came within an hour scanning the letter. "Could be someone trying to mess with you," he said. "Or it could mean my mother wasn't the only liar in this house." He didn't respond. Instead, he said quietly, "We'll run it through forensics." That night, I couldn't sleep. My father's voice kept echoing in my head. How he used to warn me about secrets, about my mother's charm. She knew everything. What did that mean? Everything about Elliot, about the land, about his death? When I checked the mailbox the next morning, another envelope was waiting. The second letter was longer. The same handwriting, but shakier, as if written in pain. "Beth, if you're reading this, it means she finally did it. Margaret isn't who you think. I didn't die in that car crash. She made it look that way. She needed my insurance, my land, and your loyalty. Don't trust anyone who asks you to forgive her." My hands trembled. I could barely breathe. Rowan listened quietly as I read it to him. "Are you sure this is real?" he asked. "It's his handwriting," I said. "I'd know it anywhere." He rubbed his chin. "Then we need to find proof. If your father's alive, he's the key to all of this." But a small, terrified part of me already knew. He wasn't alive. Margaret had made sure of that. Still, someone wanted me to believe he was, someone who knew every detail of my past. I looked at Rowan. "You think she's still alive, don't you?" He met my eyes. "If Margaret's sending these, she's not done with you yet." Rowan called from the cliffs that afternoon. "You need to see this." I drove there in silence. The waves were calmer now, but the air still smelled of salt and metal. Rowan led me to the edge where faint footprints trailed toward the rocks. Small, deliberate steps. "Fresh?" he said. "From last night?" I knelt down. The size, the stride, they matched Margaret's. "She's alive," I whispered. "Or someone wants you to think she is," Rowan said. Beside the footprints lay something half buried in the dirt. A locket. I picked it up, wiped the sand off, and froze. Inside was a photo. Me, at 17, standing beside my father. On the back, someone had written, "Truth always returns home." I slipped it into my pocket. "She's watching us," I murmured. Rowan looked at me sharply. "Then she'll make her move soon." And deep down, I knew he was right. The sound came just after midnight. The front door creaked, slow, deliberate. My heart thudded in my throat. I reached for the bat again, moving toward the stairs. The air felt charged, electric. Then a shadow passed across the living room. "Beth," a voice whispered. My mother's voice. I froze. "Mom?" She stepped out of the dark. Her hair was damp, her face pale. "You shouldn't have opened those letters," she said softly. "What do they mean?" I demanded. "Did you kill him?" Tears welled in her eyes. "He killed himself when he found out what I'd done. I only helped him disappear." I shook my head. "You forged everything. You ruined everything." Margaret reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small drive. "You don't understand, Beth. Elliot wasn't just cheating you. He was blackmailing me. With this." She placed it on the table. "It's all there. The truth. About him, about me, about your father." Before I could respond, headlights swept across the window. Rowan's car. Margaret backed away. "Don't let him find me." Then she was gone again. Rowan entered seconds after she vanished. "Beth, where is she?" "She just left," I said, still clutching the small flash drive. He reached out. "What's that?" "Proof." I plugged it into my laptop. A folder opened, dozens of files, recordings, and scanned documents. The first video began to play. My father's voice filled the room. "If anyone finds this, know that Margaret and Elliot are working together. They're planning to take the inheritance and sell the Carter land. If I resist, I won't survive the week." The timestamp was 3 days before his accident. My whole body went cold. Rowan leaned in, whispering, "This is enough to reopen his case." Then another file autoplayed, a hidden camera clip from a hospital room. Margaret sat beside a man with tubes in his nose. My father. He was alive, frail, whispering, "Please don't let her find Beth." The video ended abruptly. I turned to Rowan, tears in my eyes. "He wasn't dead." "No," he said quietly, "but someone made sure he would be." Rowan stayed the night to file the reopening order. I couldn't sleep. My laptop kept glowing faintly on the table, the video frozen on my father's face. At 3 a.m., a notification blinked, a new email. No subject, no sender. I hesitated, then opened it. "Beth, you're close. Don't trust him. She's not the only one who lied." Attached was a short audio clip. My father's voice again, faint, distorted. "If you want the truth, go back to the barn." I played it 3 times, my hands shaking. Rowan walked in, rubbing his eyes. "What's wrong?" "Someone just sent this," I whispered. He listened carefully, then frowned. "That voice could have been generated. Deepfake. Be careful." But I recognized it. It wasn't synthetic. It was my father. Or whoever was pretending to be him. "I have to go," I said, grabbing my coat. Rowan reached for my arm. "Beth, if this is a trap..." "Then it's the last one," I said. The barn looked smaller now, swallowed by fog and memory. I stepped inside, flashlight trembling in my hand. Everything was as I'd left it. The old tools, the dust, the scent of oil and earth. But there was something new, a faint beeping sound from under the floorboards. I pulled at the planks until one came loose. Beneath it was a metal box, locked. I pried it open. Inside were photographs. My father, alive, standing beside Margaret, dated months after his supposed death. I sank to my knees. He had survived. A folded note lay beneath the pictures. "Beth, if she finds this before you do, It means I'm gone for good. She wanted you to believe I abandoned you. She couldn't stand that I loved you more. Tears blurred my sight. I pressed the paper to my chest, whispering, "I'm so sorry, Dad." Behind me, gravel crunched. I turned. Margaret stood in the doorway, eyes hollow, hair tangled, rain soaking her coat. "Put it down, Beth," she said softly, stepping closer. "You weren't supposed to find that." "Then why leave it here?" I whispered. "To remind myself," she said, voice trembling, "that I once loved someone who made me feel small. I didn't kill him, Beth. I just let the world think he was gone." I shook my head. "You stole his name, his land, his daughter." Margaret's eyes filled with tears. "You think I wanted this? I built everything so you wouldn't have to struggle like I did." "You built it out of ashes," I shouted. She took another step. "He wanted to take you away from me, Beth." "He said I was poison." Maybe I am. I felt the anger drain out of me, replaced by something heavier. Pity. "Then stop," I said quietly. "End it." For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then she placed a small pistol on the ground between us. "I came to surrender," she whispered, "but I wanted you to see me first, as I am. Not the monster you made me." Police sirens painted the fog blue and red. Rowan stepped out of his car, gun drawn. "Beth, move away from her." Margaret didn't resist. She raised her hand slowly. "Tell them I didn't kill him," she said softly. Rowan cuffed her gently, his tone quiet. "You'll have a chance to explain." As they led her away, she looked back at me one last time. "Beth, everything I did was for you." I wanted to hate her. I wanted to scream. But I just stood there, clutching the letter from my father. The next morning, Rowan called. "The DNA from the letters matches your father's blood." "He's gone, Beth. Has been for years. But he tried to expose them before he died. Your mother just finished the cover-up." I nodded silently. It didn't feel like victory, only the slow ache of understanding. For the first time, I realized that revenge doesn't always heal. Sometimes it just stops the bleeding. It rained again the day I visited my father's grave. The grass had grown tall, bending under the drops. I placed the letters on the stone, the ink running into the soil. "She knew everything," I whispered. "And now, so do I." The truth hadn't saved anyone. Margaret was in custody. Elliot's empire was gone. Rowan said I could rebuild, but rebuild what? As I stood there, I realized forgiveness wasn't for her. It was for me, so I could finally stop living in the wreckage of her choices. I looked up at the sky, grey and endless. Somewhere out there, she was probably praying, rehearsing apologies that wouldn't matter anymore. "I'm done, Mom," I said softly. "You can keep your ghosts." When I walked away, I didn't feel free, just lighter, like carrying pain that finally fit in my hands. That night, I sat by the window, watching the rain streak the glass, and for the first time, I smiled. Not because I'd won, but because I'd learned what I could live with.